Well, hello everyone and welcome. We are, halfway through October already as we're sitting in the full moon energy of October 13th in the year 2019. And we are on the final stretches of this really transformational year, but also transformational decade. And as we're sitting here in this energy, there's so much that is happening on every single layer of our experience in this thing we call life, in this holographic reality we call life on planet Earth. And there's a lot happening externally, there's a lot happening internally, and we are riding the waves as we continue to shift and expand the way we show up, the way we experience our life, what we focus on, what we put our attention into, what we put our energy into, and how we express in this reality. And so there's so much happening around rewriting our history and timelines and how those two really function together, relate to each other, and help us stay in the highest level of trajectory. But it's all about how we stand in our truth in the highest timeline. And when we talk about rewriting our history, there's a lot of confusion around this because we have our memories, we have our stories, and we have our relationship to them. And when we talk about rewriting our history, we're talking about literally rewriting our response to our stories, our experience in the now moment, to those past memories that are part of our DNA, part of our matrix, part of our makeup. And when we talk about rewriting it, we're not talking about trying to lie. A lot of people are like, well, if I tell a different story, I feel like I'm lying. It's not the truth. It's not what really happened. And I understand that. I get that. You know, there's always been the saying in the business world, fake it till you make it, which is also a lie, right? Pretend that you're doing great until you're really doing great, and hold that energy and that vision. But there's a fine line, and we know it, between staying in that positive framework and actually feeling that vibration and what we say to ourselves and how we really go about this transition that we're trying to make happen. And so rewriting the history is about the way we respond to the emotional memory of what is going on. There's a lot going on with the Mandela Effect, and people are talking about this more and more and more. And the Mandela Effect is actually people in the mass consciousness remembering history differently than we actually experienced. And there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of thought around this about, well, is it just a lie? Are we just telling ourselves a lie? Or are we really changing the past? And when we talk about rewriting our personal history, the goal is to neutralize the emotional response. When we talk about our stories, and our stories are the culmination of what bring us into this now moment, this person that we are, from all the learning, all the experiences, all the trials and tribulations, all the emotions that we have experienced in our lives. And that's what makes up who we are, the wisdom that we have and the way we express in the now reality. But when we talk about rewriting the history or rewriting our story, we're simply just neutralizing the emotional response and how it affects our physical body in this now moment. Because the emotions still trigger biochemical responses in the body. Whether it happened 30 years ago or 30 minutes ago. When we relive the memory, when we tell the story, when we drum up those emotions, it has a biochemical response in the body. And so part of rewriting the story is neutralizing the emotional and biochemical response when we remember, or actually when we tell that story. Because the more we actually verbalize this story, the more the emotions can actually even come along stronger, because we're reinforcing with the spoken word. Right? And the word is incredibly powerful. Our voice, moving the energy through into sound, into the physical reality, that brings power to those words. And so, talking about rewriting the history, we're talking about how we remember and what we say about the story. Because the experience was there, it happened, and we had the learning. But did we have the learning enough to speak about the past in a way that is non-emotional, or rewrite the way we tell it and the emotional response we have? This is part of rewriting the history, and it's a much easier way to think about it, because each of us has our own unique story, our own unique experiences. And those are the ones that affect us the most, even if they were a collective event. How we remember and how we bring those memories up and retell that story, if we actually speak it, does matter. Because again, it's changing the biochemical reaction in the body, in the hormones, in the brain, in the nervous system. So if we have an experience that we can change the way we verbalize or think about it, that is rewriting the emotional history to affect the now moment in a different way. And that really is what's happening right now. The conscious awareness, to have the wherewithal, if you will, to change the way you talk about your past experiences, the stories we tell each other, who we are and how it makes us up. And if we tell the story differently, is that really a lie, or is it just a new perception of what happened? And I've always talked about consciousness is a change in our perceptions. It's the way we perceive things. And so if you can have an experience that you can change the emotional story around and perceive it from a different light, then you are rewriting your history that is affecting the now moment. And this is really powerful. And so I encourage you, as we go through the remainder of this year, to really catch yourself around the stories you tell, the memories you pull up, because we pull up certain memories. And what is the story, and what is the biochemical reaction that is happening in the body when you change that story, when you change the emotional response? This is part of rewriting our history. And we do it individually, and that then moves into a greater collective experience. And so this is really in the forefront right now, because we are still shifting timelines. And again, timelines is putting ourselves in the highest trajectory of the highest frequency energy moving forward. But the truth of the matter is, there's only the now moment. And so by rewriting our story, rewriting our emotional response to our memories, that is affecting the now moment. And it helps us stay in the highest frequency bandwidth of light that we possibly can. And that changes our current now moment. And every now moment is creating our future. So this is the theme that is happening right now as more and more and more of the freedom codes come online. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes in the collective that are affecting the way we are integrating and igniting the freedom codes within our DNA, within our cellular memory. And rewriting our history and our story is a key component to this freedom code being able to unlock at the next level. Because if we're in perpetual memory of our history that is self-sabotaging, that is continuously bringing up the same biochemical responses in the body, then the freedom codes are unable to unlock in the system. And it is only when we take the highest truth and the highest learning, even in our most horrific experiences, our most profound losses, our experiences and storylines that we tell each other, when we change those to have a neutralized or even a gratitude. And yes, I can definitely hear some of you going, how can I be grateful for X, Y, and Z? But when you really step back as an observer, look at what was learned. What did you learn in that experience? What was the outcome? What was the gift of learning, of strength, of what it made you character-wise? When you can focus on that and tell the story from that perspective and that emotional response, then in the now moment, the freedom codes that are coming in, and they will continue to come in for the next decade. This is what the 2020 to 2030 decade is all about. It's about the freedom codes. It's about the way we show up. It's about having freedom to write our own story, our own experience, our co-creative ability to create our reality. But if we're still stuck in the emotional, chemical, biochemical responses that our stories emote in our physical reality, then the freedom codes are prohibited from unlocking at the level that they're designed to do. So as we're sitting in this, we're still in the 1010 portal. We're in this full moon energy, which again is all about releasing. So it's perfect to have this here because we're going to focus on releasing the emotional responses to the stories, neutralize them in our fields, in our matrix, so that the biochemical response can be different. This is where we are in transforming our ability to co-create. And so I invite you to think about that. I invite you to catch yourself when the stories come up and take a moment to, even if you tell the same story, right, to stop and analyze and review and look at what you're saying, how you're saying it, what the emotional response is, and draft a new story. Literally take pen and paper if you need to. Recite it out loud, the new version of that story that brings a neutralized experience to the negative emotion and perhaps even brings in a positive of gratitude, of learning, of courage, of self-discovery, and allow that to be the imprint forevermore of that memory.